Hey guys, how's it going? It's Clover here. Within the past year, ever since I started doing this keto thing, I've posted pictures on Instagram. I've had people ask me for recipes, really interested in some of the stuff that I make. So I'm going to be doing these, kind of series of short little videos in which I take something that I typically make a lot and I'm going to break it down, kind of show you how to make it. For those of you that don't know me, at the start of 2020, I weighed 297 pounds. I didn't necessarily start off doing keto, but eventually when I think I got down to like 252 and I plateaued, that was kind of whenever, through the advice of somebody, that I looked further into keto. And ever since then, I've kind of, for the most part, done the diet. And because of that, I actually have lost 100 pounds, or well, really over 100 pounds since the start of 2020. I actually weigh less than 200 now. I'm getting close to that 190 mark. But anyways, so these videos are just, or at least this first video is just not exactly going to be the greatest quality, I'll admit. Currently do not know the whereabouts of the charger for my laptop, for my camera, the battery for my camera. So I'm probably going to end up having to get a replacement one. This one was just kind of shot on my phone, kind of like a last minute little throw, throwing everything together. But anyways, today I'm going to be making keto pot roast. And so let's dig in, shall we? Alright, so this is the ingredients that you're going to need. First off, we got the pot roast, obviously. We got the green onions, carrots that have been peeled and cut, about 5 to 6 cloves of garlic, depending on, how big your roast is. Since I have more of a bigger roast, I used a little bit more garlic. Brussels sprouts that have been washed and halved, bone broth, sliced baby bella mushrooms, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, pink Himalayan salt, tomato paste, rosemary, and thyme. Alright, so first what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and melt the oil in our pot. This is a Dutch oven. You can really use anything that you want. You can use like a cast iron skillet, or you could just use a regular skillet just for the first part of this. But the reason why I like using this is because I can just put the lid on it and, just stick it directly in the oven. I don't have to transfer it to something that I can, put in the oven. I can just do the entire cooking process right in here. Alright, so while that oil is getting hot, which I just used coconut oil, but you can really use whatever oil you want. If you got avocado oil, olive oil, vegetable oil, or canola oil, just really any kind of oil that you want. Alright, so while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and begin by seasoning the pot roast. Obviously, you're going to want plenty of salt on both sides. Pepper. Garlic powder. And onion powder. Now, as you can see, our oil is just right. We're gonna go ahead and stick the pot roast in there. The whole point of doing this is you want to get a nice sear on the outside of the roast. So you're going to let it go for a few minutes, and then you're going to flip it, and then let it go for a few minutes, and then I'm going to take it out, and then I'll start with all the other ingredients and return it afterwards. Alright, now that it's been a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and give it a turn. And then let it go for a few more minutes. Alright, now it's time to take it out. Oh yeah. Just set it on a cutting board temporarily. But let's just look at that. You see, you got some nice coloration, a little bit of kind of like a golden brown around the edges of it. But either way, it's a nice sear on both sides. So what we're going to do is, bottom of the Dutch oven might not necessarily look too great. But we're going to go ahead and start by throwing in a Brussels sprout to get a little bit of color on those. And go ahead and throw in our carrots as well. Now you're not really necessarily cooking the vegetables all the way, you're just kind of getting it started. And then next we're going to want to throw in our mushrooms. Alright, now once those have cooked for a few minutes, you want to go ahead and throw in the green onion. The reason why I typically use green onion in most recipes is because it has a lower carb count than using like yellow onion or sweet onion or white onion. So it's just I can use a bit more of this, and really it's just in there to get some of the flavor out. I don't necessarily care too much whether or not I'm having big chunks of onion or not. Once you get that kind of stirred in there, then you want to go ahead and put the garlic . And then from there, you don't necessarily have to cook it too much longer. You just about until you really start smelling that garlic come through. So maybe about like a minute after you put it in. Just stir it around a bit. And then it's at this point you see how down at the bottom you still kind of have it's still a little bit dark, some stuff still stuck. Essentially what you're going to do now is add in the tomato paste. And what that's gonna help do is kind of, I mean, it'll give it a little bit of flavor, obviously, but as it kind of mixes in and blends in, it's gonna kind of clean up that bottom a little bit. Like all that flavor, you know, the meat, it'll actually get soaked up into that tomato paste and definitely make the pot roast taste a lot better. Because, you know, you have the seasonings on the outside of the pot roast, so a lot of that salt and pepper and all that got in at the bottom. Alright, it's about at this point that I want to go ahead and shut off the oven. Or we'll shut off the stove. And have your oven already preheated to 250 degrees. And what we're going to do now is return the pot roast back to the Dutch oven. Just set it right on top of those vegetables. And then the bone broth is going to be added. Personally, I like this brand, Kettle and Fire. It's made with 100% grass-fed beef bones. But I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to use bone broth. I mean, you could really use any kind of broth that you like. I think it has a lot more flavor. And because this is a decent sized roast and we got all the vegetables in there, I'm gonna use almost 2 of these. Just kind of enough to cover it quite a bit. That's honestly about good. Alright, and then the last step is basically just to kind of throw your rosemary and then your thyme at the very top. And that's going to give it some extra flavor. Just kind of spread it out a little bit. Going to go ahead and put the lid on it, and we're going to put it in the oven. Do not mess with it, don't touch it, just leave it alone for at least like 3.5 hours, so that way it has plenty of time to cook. That meat can break apart, get really tender. And one thing I will say is, I'm not quite sure if it's the rosemary or the thyme, but you will tend to notice as it's cooking, you're going to kind of, there's just going to be kind of like this almost kind of burnt plastic smell almost that comes from it. Nothing's wrong with your oven. The roast isn't burning. It's got plenty of liquid in there. It's just the rosemary or the thyme, one of those two, kind of gives off a smell as it's cooking. But we're going to leave it alone for 3.5 hours and come back and look at it afterwards. Alright, so here we go. This is the moment that I've been waiting for. It's been sitting in the oven for maybe actually a little bit longer than 3.5 hours, but it is also kind of a bigger roast, so here we go. Oh, just look at that. Alright, I need something to kind of break this bad boy up a little bit. Now this, obviously, you know, you don't need to keep the thyme and the rosemary. Usually I just kind of take it all out. I like putting it on the top, so that way it just gets the flavor. Obviously you don't want to eat the stuff. I mean, See, all the vegetables have been cooked thoroughly. Alright, so I've started to kind of cut up into it, take a good look at it. But it should be nice and tender. See, starts to just break away with a fork. All that fat has cooked down. Alright, let's do a little taste test, shall we? And that right there is one of my favorite ways to make a pot roast. So feel free to use this recipe. It's completely keto friendly. And if you like what you saw, you want me to do more videos, go ahead and hit the like, subscribe button, and stay tuned. I'll try to obviously get a little bit better with this. Quality wasn't that great because I need to get a new charger for my battery for my camera. Obviously, I didn't shave today, so I'm not necessarily looking that great myself. But yeah, anyways, stay tuned.